Summer is getting closer every day, and one thing we don't want is a repeat of last summer's bad air quality. There were 24 days when the air quality index reached unhealthful levels. The Milwaukee Fresh Air Collective is working to make indoor and outdoor air cleaner for everyone every day. Let's learn more about the work the collaborative is doing and how we can become engaged from Langston Verdin, founding director and co-executive director of the Milwaukee Fresh Air Collective. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Denise.
Why was MKE Fresh Air formed, and how is it raising awareness about our air quality and how it can be improved?
Yeah, so I would say the long story short, I formed the organization back in 2019 to better understand air quality in Black and Brown communities. At the time, I was working at Children's Wisconsin and had access to data that showed some huge disparities between Black and white health outcomes related to asthma. Obviously, we're talking about kids here, so that was super concerning to me. But what we didn't know was how the air quality was influencing those health outcomes. So then we needed a way to better understand that.
So when we look at that, what did your research find? What was the disparity, and how does air quality make Black children and brown children with asthma sicker?
Yeah, so we know from data from studies that already exist that our indoor and outdoor air quality will negatively influence, or I guess positively in some cases. But yeah, as we're talking about asthma, we're looking at those negative influences of air quality, and we know that connection already exists. If you have poor outdoor air, you're going to see kids showing up at the emergency department at higher rates. If you have really poor indoor air quality, same thing, especially if you have kids who are extremely vulnerable to poor air quality. So when I saw these hot spots that we saw related to emergency department utilization for Black and Brown kids on the Northwest side and on the near South side, for me, I was raised in a family where you don't just sit around and think, oh, there's a problem here. You do something about it. And so this was my effort to do something about it, was to help the community better understand what the air quality is and how it's influencing their health.
As you had this discovery yourself from the research and work that you did about the impact of air quality, did you find that most people understood that, or for the most part, did we just not understand the impact that air quality can have on health?
I think for many folks, we don't think about air quality. It's kind of like in most cases, we don't think about the water we're drinking. We just turn on the tap and you just drink it and you hope, you expect really that it's going to be good for you. It's going to be healthy. And a lot of folks will just go outside, expect the air to be healthy. What we've learned with the wildfire events of 2023 and 2025 is that's not always the case. And so it's especially important to be mindful if you have sensitive conditions or are young or elderly, to be mindful of what the air quality is, because it can cause adverse effects.
In some ways, did those natural disasters, the fires that took place in 23 and 25, did that in some way elevate the discussion and open that door to begin to have a deeper discussion, understanding, conversation about the impact of air quality, even when we don't have forest fires?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, prior to the wildfires of 2023, the folks that were really paying attention to it were kind of environmental health kind of nerds like myself, and not really the general community. And so this put the spotlight on of air quality. We have the ability to see how many people follow our sensors. We've got 30 air sensors located all across the city. And prior to that first wildfire event, we might have had 2,000 people following our air quality sensors. Today, we've got over 17,000 people in the Milwaukee area following our sensors. So people are paying attention, which is really good news.
When we take a look at the work that you all do in the collective, you really focus your work on environmental justice through the lens of structural racism. How does that influence the work that you do and where you do it?
Yeah, so again, these are proven connections. Time and time again, all across the country, you find that asthma, poor air quality will follow Black and Brown communities, especially low income communities nationally. And so we really focus our work on making sure that folks in these communities have access to our data, have access to our information, as well as we're intentional about where we put our sensors as well. So like I said, we've got 30 air sensors located all across the city. The vast majority of them are located in Black and Brown communities that have been historically divested. And that's kind of how we focus and engage in the work.
As you engage in this work, how do you inform community members about what the air quality is? Is there an effort to help people understand how to interpret the data? Because most of us aren't
Yeah.
scientists or don't have the level of understanding than you do. So how do you work to make sure that people understand what the air quality is?
Yeah, we try to make it as simple as possible for folks to gain access to the information. We do all the things that most organizations do in terms of community engagement, your Facebook page, your social media, things like that. But I would say more importantly is the conversations that we have with community members at community events. We partner with a ton of neighborhood associations, community organizations. Will come out to their an existing um, uh, program that they're having, and we'll talk about air quality, and we do it in a way that makes it kind of tangible for folks. Not only are we just talking about it and we've got our PowerPoint up, but we're going to help you do things like build a air purifier or air cleaner, we call them, a kind of a DIY air cleaning box, so that you can literally see how you can help yourself and your family by cleaning the air in your spaces. And so we try to make it as practical and as simple as folks, but also partner with those trusted community partners as well.
When you start to talk to people about this, and perhaps it's the first time some folks are hearing about it, thinking about it, what kind of reaction do you get from folks when they begin to understand that the quality of their air, particularly the outdoor air, is not what they thought it was?
Yeah, I think folks are surprised more than anything else, and also grateful to be able to have a tool that they can now, look on their app and see, oh, that I'm getting a notification now that the air quality is bad. I know what to do when it's bad. I can close my windows, I can keep my kids inside, limit outdoor activities, things like that. And so I think it pivots really quickly from shock to the motivation to keep myself and my family safe. That's what we all want to do, right? And so when we have the information, we can do that.
One of the things you mentioned is that when you go to these community gatherings, you can help people build an air purifier for indoors. A lot of times we think bad air is outside. I close the windows, close the doors. I don't have to worry
No.
about it. Air inside is good. That is not always the case.
Yeah, especially in a old city like Milwaukee, where you have housing stock that was built, over 100 years ago. The insulation is bad. The windows are kind of creaky. We've got gaps in the walls, things like that. A lot of that poor air quality gets in, and in many cases, we don't have ventilation in our homes to filter out the poor air quality. So adding things like an air cleaner can be really helpful. But I would say for us, it's really important because you can see on the filter how dirty the air actually was. So there's this example of, wow, that was in my air. I was breathing that. My kids were breathing that. Let me hurry up and change this filter out because I want to continue to keep my air clean.
Well, we really appreciate the work that you are doing to make us all aware. Thank you so much for being with us today, Langston.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
And people can get more information on the collective's website, mkefreshair.com. And that's all for this week. We thank you all for being with us. Be well, take care, and we'll be back again next week with another Connect MKE.